This is season 4, and I am on a mission to help creatives become the most loved versions of themselves. I want to help you step into health in every single area of your life and pursue the authentic creative expression that you feel called to and that only you can. The world feels crazy right now, and we need healthy creatives more than ever. So let's get into it. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast. Do you think, let me think, 15 years ago, did you think someday I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to be on Courtney's podcast?
Absolutely. Planned it out from the beginning.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no way.
You're a
Not at all.
mastermind.
Not at all.
Wild.
Number one, actually, funny story. In biology class, we did dissection of a lamb's heart. And I did the entire thing. I felt nervous because nothing seemed to line up. And at the end, I realized I had the lamb's heart upside down. Totally opposite of what it's supposed to be. Did it wrong. And my conclusion walking out of class was, I will never be a doctor because this is stupid.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Two things actually in high school I was never going to be. I was never going to be a pastor. I was like, spend all my life in church. I'm never doing that. And I'm never going to be a doctor. So.
No way.
Yeah, my intentions.
What else have you said you're never going to do? I can't wait. What if you say like, I'm never going to be a millionaire? Try it. Yeah. Do it.
I'm never going to have abs. I'm never going to be able to dunk a basketball.
Never.
Never going to own an island. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
My dream car though in high school was a Volkswagen Jetta. So I could probably attain that.
Reach for the stars, kid. Oh my gosh. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. I am Courtney Lancaster, and I am your host, and I have another Lancaster with me. You guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to my brother-in-law, Dr. Reid Lancaster. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Thanks. Yeah, this has been a long time coming, I think.
Oh, of course.
So I'm glad we could troubleshoot all the insane troubleshooting we had to do to make this happen.
You know what? It happens like every other podcast. There's like so much troubleshooting to do. It's like you would think we would be locked by now, but I don't know why. And those are always usually like the best episodes anyway. So I think it's a good sign. It's like a good omen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just said, I have known Reid. Okay. I'm trying to think now. So if you were 12-ish, I was like 15.
Now I'm 26.
Oh, that's
so
right. Yeah. And I'm 30. Nope. Yeah. It's been a while. We've known each other
28 years,
basically.
28 years.
No,
I think so.
Oh
if
my
I'm
gosh.
40, I was 12.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's 28 years.
For 28 years. Well, actually, family now. You were my little brother's best friend, and then in junior high, and then I ended up marrying your older brother. And look at us now. The reason why I wanted to have you on was it's so interesting that you just said you would never be a pastor, and then you said you'd never be a doctor. I actually am a little bit interested in that journey and the parallels between being a pastor and being a doctor, because a lot of the people that I end up talking to are ones that are like trying to make big shifts in their life. But the real reason, or the biggest reason why I wanted to have you on, was because I have told you this now a few times, that I work with creatives who are mostly these brilliant artists or entrepreneurs, musicians, and they are wanting to do really big things with their life and their creativity and their dreams and their goals. And because of that, there's often a lot of really high sensitivity and sometimes some really big wounds that need to be tended to. And for those reasons, and maybe other reasons, they tend to be a little lost on self-care, like basic body self-care. And so I know I've talked to you about this before, but I have thought a lot with my clients about how like some of these issues that we're working through, some of these big blocks that feel like they're in the way, could actually probably be solved or at least eased by some like very basic sleep and nutrition and body care, like
you just named it
education.
All. So no need for me.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it. The big three.
Great. So you guys figured out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. So that is like why I wanted to have you on, because now that you are a doctor, even though you're still kind of a junior hire in my head, that's not a lie.
in
I
most people's
now
heads.
have all of these questions for right? Even your patients. I still have I have like so many questions and obsessions and fascinations with self-care and in general that we always ask you. And so I wanted to bring your expertise to the people in my audience. So
Yeah, happy to
that's
do
why
it.
you're here. I'm
Love
so
it.
excited. Okay, so can you just give us a little bit of a background on just who you are and how you got to this point of private practice in your area, being a doctor?
Yep. So I am Reid. I'm a Lancaster. And so my journey was a little bit twisty, curvy to get to be a doctor. And I started out, my family is a ministry family. My dad was into tech and ministry, church. So I was in church my whole life. Uh, like she said, I did not want to be a pastor when I was in high school, and then went straight from high school to becoming a junior high pastor. And I loved it, loved it. Was in ministry for 6 or 7 years, somewhere in there, and loved it, but then had a,
Mm-hmm.
I throw it in for if there's any Gen Zers in there that, I don't know, trying to
For
connect,
sure.
not the way to
Yeah.
do it.
6, 7. Yeah. Good job.
So, so yeah, but going after while I was pastoring, I took an anatomy course and loved it. I was just shocked at how much I really enjoyed learning about the human body. It came naturally to me and was fascinated. Learned about a couple careers in medicine, became a PA, and actually left the ministry at that time.
That's
Was a
right.
physician assistant for 4 years in family medicine and got a little bit disillusioned with the system. I did not like how I was kind of backed into a corner to treat patients. I had to see them within 6 or 7 minutes. I had to do an awful lot of computer work, and I was looking at my screen most of the time instead of them. They couldn't get in. I couldn't talk to. It was a rushed mess in the insurance based world.
Interesting.
And there was a doctor from Kansas. He was on TV. He was on the news at my in-laws' house. So I peeked my head in there, and he was talking to somebody on the news for about 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, he described a different way of doing healthcare, and it was called direct primary care. And it's basically an idea where you pay a small amount of money monthly. It's very low cost, and that pays for your care. We kick insurance out of it. We work with it on the side if we have to, but we don't take any dimes for it.
So good.
And because of that, you have a lot of better access. So you can get our cell phone number as the doctor. You get hour-long appointments most of the time. We get to really dive in deep with each other, say, hey, who are you? What are your goals in life? Where are you at? What have you been through? Uh, what's your what do you look like under the hood, right? With labs, what is your blood telling us about your health? What is your body fat percentage? What is your muscle mass? I mean, what do you eat for breakfast? What's your favorite snack? What's your guilty pleasure? I mean, these are things that I talk with my patients all the time, and it's such a better system. And it's caused a couple of shifts to happen for
Yeah.
me. Number one, I am passionate about my job again. I love what I do. And even when it's hard, even when it's overwhelming at times, because there are a lot of things that people want to talk about, right? Naturally, it's their bodies, it's their life, it's their health, it's their goals. So I love diving in, but even when it's hard, I love it. It's challenging, and it feels fulfilling because we get to these root causes
Yeah.
for people and have aha moments regularly where it's like, oh, I've been dealing with this for 10 years and I never knew what it was. And
Yeah.
because we had a little bit of extra time to dig down, the answer became obvious. And it was just that time. It was that care. It was asking the right questions. And then, boom, oh, there's the issue. Maybe we have a target to
Yeah.
attack. You fix that thing, and maybe that symptom gets better and their life is improved. And so
Right.
that's the
Right.
journey of going from, high school kid, not wanting to do any of this stuff, pastor. And while I was a pastor, just falling in love with people, falling in love with uh, really figuring out what people are dealing with in life, and trying to help
Yeah.
them live their best life from the perspective of God, the universe, reality, truth, and then taking that
Yeah.
into medicine and trying to do medicine in a way that makes a difference in the same way, trying to figure out, hey, where are we in reality? What is true? And where are your goals? And how can we support you in that? And there's usually a lot that we can do for people in that kind of setting.
Yeah. Wow. So what I hear you saying is you became a doctor because it was super easy.
Super easy. Yeah. Easiest road ever, especially going
Yeah.
through PA
Like
school, then starting over,
basic.
going through med school and residency. Great choices on my
So
part.
going through med school twice. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Were there like clues all along? I guess I didn't know that that an anatomy class was like your first big
yeah.
shift.
So
Like, can you look back and be like, oh, I was like always heading this direction?
Absolutely not. No. Honestly,
Really?
when I look back, the clues, I mean, enjoying school,
You were going to be a
that was
basketball
probably
star.
I mean, I did have to turn down the Lakers to open this practice. And I was like,
Right.
maybe not
Yes,
this
as we
time,
all
guys.
know, famous family
Another
story.
life. Yeah, I got to
Totally.
give it up for the people. So no, but I don't remember any specific clues other than just enjoying school. So it never scared me to go to this much
Yeah.
school. And there's a lot of positive feedback if you're getting good grades in school. So what anyone's searching for. So if
And
you're
you hate that.
it's the worst. It's the worst. So but it's like if you're a great singer and you're singing and people tell you, man, that was amazing, and you feel lit up when you're on stage, or you're lit up when you're playing guitar, you're lit up when you write something and somebody gives you
Totally.
great feedback that it meant something to them. Imagine being I don't like calling myself a non-creative, but somebody in this other kind of life. It's a
Sure.
different kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
creativity
Everyone's creative.
where you get to use your
Totally.
mind, get to use the skills that you've worked hard for, and you get that same feedback of, wow, that really meant something to me. And thank you. Like
Yeah.
that's a very fulfilling place to be.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I guess like do you feel like it's fair to say that you've always really cared about people? Like
Yes and
human
no.
beings? Like as because
Yes
a
and no.
pat
Right. Honestly, so I think
okay,
the
because both
honest,
of those professions are very like well, like the pastoring and being a doctor, those are very like human well-being, like soul care and body care of the human. You could be
yes.
you could be like a engineer. Like
Yeah, no, I would
you
wither
really went
away.
into two fields that are directly
Yeah,
about caring for the human.
I would definitely wither away in an engineering field. So no, the connection with people at the end of the day is what makes this fulfilling, right? And I could definitely get
Yeah.
some enjoyment from solving some problem in a closet somewhere, but the only reason that would be fulfilling is if at the end of the day that problem helped people. It made a difference in this world, and I think that's
Yeah.
a pretty universal human desire. I believe it's like, hey, what I do, what
Totally.
I bring to the
Totally.
table, makes this world a better place for people. And this is, yeah, and
Yeah.
these careers that I've had, luckily, I get to do that directly. Like I'm sitting face to face with people all day long, a lot like with what you do.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out, hey, how
Yeah.
do we make your life better? And how can I help? And
Right.
it's a great place to be.
It's exactly like what I consider myself a doctor in
Well,
another way. Just kidding. Just kidding.
there you go.
Uh, 100% joking. Okay, but I do think that like you and my sister-in-law are very you and your wife, you genuinely love when other people win.
Yeah, it's a
Does
good
that feel
feeling.
true
That feels
to
true.
say?
And especially
Yeah,
her.
like you
She's,
like Megan,
yeah,
yeah.
it's funny.
Megan, your wife has the saying, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but yeah, her breed and what lights her up is way more than ever getting credit, way more than ever quote
Yeah,
unquote winning in a situation herself. Oh my gosh, if she can give something to somebody, create something for somebody, help somebody with what they're dealing with, and that works and that helps them.
yeah,
And she's lit up, she's got energy, she's buzzing around, it's a whole new level of
right.
energy for
Totally,
2 days after something like that. So, and sometimes it's like,
totally.
hey, she just gives everything to people for this reason, right? So it's like, here's
Yeah.
$1,000. I'm like, okay, or yep, thousand. Sure, take it. Take our car. Why
I'm sure
not? Yeah, she's
James
just
can
so
relate to that.
generous.
Yeah.
But sorry, what you were going to say
That's
for
so
her,
funny.
a saying that she has.
Well, I was going to say for both of you guys, you have that saying. I think it was from Megan's friend: "When my friends win, I double win."
Yeah.
And so that is what I want to do for anyone listening to it today. Is I want to help Reid double win by helping you win. So what I want to start with is if you had to boil down taking care of your body to the absolute basics, what are the non-negotiables everyone should focus on first?
It's a great question. So taking care of our body. First, I think we have to understand what our goal is for a mental, emotional reason. So when you want to take care of your body, when you want to feel healthy, I have found that many people sit in front of me who are unbelievably healthy with great in-depth labs trying to nitpick everything, and it's like, wow, you are doing great. Your body composition is great, your sleep habits are great, all of these things are great, and they will still sit in front of me and say, I just don't think I'm healthy. in some way or another. They will say, I feel terrible every day or something.
Interesting.
And I am becoming a believer in, okay, what is our goal? Because if our goal is to say, I never have an ache or pain, I never have a headache, I never feel tired, I can climb, Mount Vesuvius, I can do all of these things. I think, okay, some of these goals are reasonable and some of them might be unreasonable. And if we don't identify that before going on this, how do I become healthy journey, you might actually be sitting in healthy and not be able to appreciate it. And that can drive somebody bananas. It can really play with your mind and it can
Interesting.
really play with your
Yeah.
emotional state, which I would imagine if you're trying to start a business, create something great, do something, if
Right.
that is weighing on you somewhere in the back of your mind at all times, and I see it all the time, I think we all experience it to some degree,
Yeah.
that can really hinder your goal of being healthy. So, number one, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to do? And, but backing up from that, let's say you have a goal. You're like, hey, I want to be well. I want to avoid chronic disease. That's a specific goal. I want to avoid chronic disease as long as I can. I want to feel pretty well to where I am
Mm-hmm.
able to function at my quote unquote a high level. I'm not going to say the highest because that's nebulous, but at a high level to do what I want to do, feel well doing it, and avoid these diseases that I don't want to die from, right? I don't want to be uh, suffering
Right.
from in any way. And if you want to do that, then health is going to have many different aspects. But the four that I would boil it down to is your physical health, which we'll talk about mostly today, something in your realm, which is your mental, emotional health. I think another pillar to that is
Mm-hmm.
your spiritual health. And then the last pillar I would put in there
Mm-hmm.
is your social health. And all of those things, from your body
Mm.
to your mind and emotions to your spirit and your soul and your relationships, those all have to be in place for health to have its best chance in your life. And we're all the same. And if I think of it
Mm.
like a barrel, like with the old fashioned wood barrel with the staves, those long sticks that go up the side and they're strapped together. Each of those pillars is like a stave in the barrel. You're only as healthy as your shortest one. You're only going to be as healthy as if I have abs, and I see this also in patients. I'm like ripped. My exercise is on point. My labs are perfect. I'm doing great. I wake up. I do cold plunges and then infrared saunas. I'm taking all the right supplements on TikTok. I've got so physically, man, I am there. But I have a whole load of unforgiveness for somebody in my life, and this relationship is
Totally.
something I can't really, or the other way, it's I'm just in this toxic situation, then I am not going to feel well, even though my cholesterol, my blood sugar, my inflammatory markers, my body fat, even if all of that physical stuff's there. So to keep that holistic perspective is key, which is where, with what you're doing, that's where you come in, right? This is where keeping
Mm-hmm.
that I'm working on all the staves at the same time. But let's dive into the physical because I think that's mostly the question. And
Yeah.
now that we've set the stage, my disclaimers are out there. Uh,
It's great. That was
yeah,
great. That was great.
there are
Beautiful.
very basic things that we all instinctively know, but we need to hear sometimes with a twist in order to
Mm-hmm.
get and apply. And the biggest
Yeah.
gap in the world is the gap between knowing and doing. So I'm going to hopefully help you with the knowing and then you work on the doing.
Push us to the, yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
there's in studies there are six basic things that always rise to the top when it comes to what's going to help you have a healthy life. And that is sometimes there's buzzwords in social media.
Totally.
There's longevity, which is basically living longer. There's health span, there's quality of life years. The idea is not just to live to 120, it is to how do I live as long as possible enjoying my life. Like that's what we want. I don't want to be 120 on a ventilator in a bed with
Mm.
somebody else wiping me when I go to the bathroom. That's not what anybody wants.
Right,
I
right,
want to be able to enjoy my life.
right.
And what are the things that we can do that give us the best chance at doing that? There's six things that come to the top. And number one, I'll do them in order as far as uh,
Yes.
the things that make the most difference. First, number one, unfortunately, exercise. It is the number one far and away. And it's not just for longevity, quality of life, it's also for mental health and creative expression. I would throw in there as well. Because when we
Mm-hmm.
exercise and we do it regularly, and there are magical numbers that pop up in every study, And when you boil it all down,
Really?
yes, that magical number is if you can get to overall exercise of at least moderate intensity, and we kind of have a general idea of what moderate intensity means, 150 minutes a week. If you do the math, reverse it 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week at moderate intensity. If you get to there, some magical things start to happen in the
Mm.
statistics. You have a decreased all cause mortality, which is death, by about 19% just from that. That doesn't mean you're not 19% of people aren't going to die if they exercise. It means that if you take a 50-year-old who's exercising and a 50-year-old who is not, and you say, okay, we had 100 of them on each side, there's going to be 19% more dead people in the non-exercising group than this group. And
Yeah.
and that's at every
Wow.
single year.
Yeah.
And so you also
Wow.
have a 25% decreased chance of cardiovascular disease, which is not just heart attacks and strokes, which are horrible, nobody wants. It's also all the things we don't think about. There's something called microvascular disease that affects your brain, which most people care about because that causes slowing of our thinking processes. It causes dementia if it gets really bad. It can cause these things that are those vague feelings of, I don't feel right. I feel like I can't think quickly. My
Mm-hmm.
drive is gone. Like, so these are things that can happen from cardiovascular disease as well. So exercise decreases that. And then if you break
Mm.
it down, the question is, well, should I be doing cardio or should I be doing strength training? And the answer is we should all be doing both. And the reality is
Yeah.
if I just did an hour of strength training a week, not a day, but an hour a week of lifting weights, trying to get all the different body groups, then I also get an extra 20% decreased in all cause mortality. And if I do both, let's say
Mm.
if I just do an hour of cardio and an hour of strength training every week, then my risk of death, that all cause mortality, is not 19% decreased. It goes up to about 55% decrease from age
What?
gap to age gap, just from doing the exercise for strength training plus aerobic or cardio, 1 hour of each a week. And there's variations on that. There's other things you can do, but
Wow.
just so exercise is unbelievably important for staying. And you also, there's a random one that you can come across. It decreases breast cancer specifically by 20%, and some other kinds of cancers, but that's specific. So,
Wow.
so exercise unbelievably important both
Wow.
for longevity, living well, living longer, avoiding disease, as well as you feel awesome. And when you feel
Yeah.
awesome, we are much more likely
Right.
to do the things we want to do and do the things we're passionate about
Yeah.
because we have the energy to do it. And when you feel strong and you feel like, man, I can run up that mountain, I can lift this thing, you you just have a great mindset, right? And we've all experienced that.
Yeah.
So, number one is
Hmm.
exercise. So the 6 pillars. Number two, so back up. If I could push anything, it is find a way to get started. Right? If you're sitting there and say, I've neglected this completely, haven't been to the gym, I'm not run, and you're just sitting there and you're listening, you're saying, yeah, I knew that already. If I could emphasize anything, get started. Can you do something for 10 minutes today or tomorrow?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah.
Something for 10 minutes, whether it's even a fast paced walk gets you going on that cycle, right? And,
Yeah.
and then you can kind of build from there. And another bonus, if you can find a friend, do it with somebody else, and your
Yeah.
chances of success and staying consistent go through the roof if you have somebody waiting for
Yeah.
you, or if you have somebody
Yeah.
that you enjoy doing these things with because you can get the friend time. Then you get that social pillar, right? All this starts to work synergistically together. Number two.
Right.
So number two is also not a surprise. What you eat matters in a huge way. So what is the best
No, it
diet?
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Next.
no, who cares? I'm going to drink an Alani and
Well, we have a
crush some
very
Twinkies.
shared. Okay, wait. I want to jump into that. I want to say too the exercise thing. I think that one of the biggest sells for me with exercise was understanding just for women how much it helps complete the stress cycle. So for your nervous system, if there's fight or flight energy or there, I mean,
Mm,
we all have stress, of course, but for women, how it like actually like I think women tend to think that we don't need strength training as much, and strength training is actually the thing that like relieves and like completes an actual fight or flight cycle in our body. And
mm,
that has been something that like for me, I did cardio, hiking. I was like would walk a million miles, and I had like such high body fat percentage. I like had so many chronic things, and I had no idea what was going on. And so, anyways, I'm not an expert. I have nothing to add to this conversation besides my own personal experience of like strength training and lifting weights literally changed my life and is
Wow.
changing my like physical health as well. So yes to that. For creatives especially, it clear the space that it clears in your head, as well as expanding your capacity for hard things just psychologically, because
Well
walking is
said.
great, but like standing still and actually focusing on something that is so hard until failure is psychologically
Mm.
so good for me, at least. And I'm sure I have no studies to add to this besides, again, my own personal experience. So
And
that
that
is what I would add from my own.
what you said that was key there too. Well said. Is the until failure line is a big deal
Yes. Yeah.
for a couple of reasons. I like how you
Yeah.
framed it, where it's I can do hard things. That's very important for us to learn at the youngest age
Right.
possible and
Yes.
constantly reinforce
Yes.
that I can do hard things. And so when you do something to failure
Yes.
and physicality, it's very easy to see, but in other areas of life, it's also important to try something and fail.
Right.
But what that does
Yeah.
on studies, since you mentioned, there's a study that was done that
Tell me.
compared, this was recently, just read this 2 weeks ago, that compared two groups of people, young people in their 20s, exercising and doing strength training, so not cardio. And they compared the people who stopped at fatigue, which is, they said, roughly 70% of what they were capable of. That's where most of us stop. Like if you are exercising, most of you are
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty tired, good enough, unless someone's like shouting at you or there's
Yeah.
peer pressure. And then they compared it to the people who went to failure. And the failure group, but over and above, had way better muscle gain and strength gain. And so if you actually want to build muscle and burn fat,
Wow.
by the way, it's going to failure that will get you there so much faster. And at some point, if you just go to fatigue, you actually
Yeah.
plateau and you don't really make those gains anymore. You're just sort of maintaining. So until failure is key for
Yeah.
actually building muscle. And you can do that with getting heavier weights until you fail, or you can do that same weight and just do it more times. And it's a very interesting study because it really
Yeah.
reinforces something
That
that
is
is
really
very
interesting.
very norm. I want to say it goes with our intuition that if I do this until
Yes.
I can't anymore, that muscle breaks down more, it'll get bigger, and I'll get stronger. So there is a way of working out
Right.
that is better than other ways, and that until failure, what you said,
Yes.
is absolutely key mentally and for your muscle gain.
I was just writing how impressed I was with myself for like a good 6 months, because I started weight training and I was like, wow, look at me. Like I can do this. I'm doing
Yeah,
pretty good. And then I just stayed the same. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm plateauing. I'm not like, because this is so impressive, right?
yeah.
I rode my own self cheer for too long, and then I was like, nothing's changing, nothing's happening. And I have been working with a fitness coach, and she was like, you're not even like, you can do way more than you thought you could, which I
Mhm.
think obviously there's a lot of parallels emotionally as well. um Anything else you want to add before we talk about our shared love of
Yeah,
junk
no,
food?
there's nothing more annoying than when you're at the gym or with a trainer and they shouting at you when you're tired, like you can do anything you put your mind to. You're like, then you get down here
I'm
and do
like,
it.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait,
Something along those lines.
put it in there.
Yes, internally well controlled, but yes,
Right.
but it's true.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Our family, the Lancasters, have a very deep value for baked goods and fried food. And I mean, I think in a lot of ways it unifies us.
Oh, totally.
And so also, we also have a very shared value of wanting to be healthy.
Yeah.
So that is actually true. Like most of our time together is revolving around like a recipe that we want to try. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about a healthy way to approach food and nutrition with the
Yeah.
honesty that we
Yeah.
love
So
cookies.
disclaimer, open transparency. I think any of my friends or family would tell you I have a capacity to eat that is basically unparalleled. If it's a special occasion and there is a smorgasbord of all kinds of amazing unhealthy food, I can go to town like nobody else. So I'm going to get that out there so that nobody thinks I'm a giant hypocrite, because I'm in some ways I kind of am sometimes. However,
That's okay.
baseline,
Everything in balance.
as a
Yeah.
baseline, I think it's important to remember that the old cliche, we are what we eat, is absolutely true, that
Right.
our cells turn over every so many months, you're a whole new body every so many years, and you have to feed yourself the raw ingredients to become healthy and to stay that way. So diet is absolutely number two. And the question is, first off, what do I eat? What is healthy? What's a healthy diet? What's not? So debatable. I mean, that's where TikTok and Instagram, the social media lives on this question and thrives because there's so much money to make on making claims and selling things and sign up for my program on this diet. It's read my
Totally.
books. I mean, it's all over the
Which is
place.
why it's really overwhelming. Yeah,
Oh
especially for
my
highly
gosh,
sensitive people, it's incredibly overwhelming, enough to make us want to check out from the whole thing.
totally. And I am a physician who wants to check out from this whole thing every other day because it's so
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And even for somebody who I'm trained to go through this kind of information quickly and understand, I get like, what the heck, right? Is it okay? I guess, yeah, we can eat eggs again or
Totally.
not, or it's protein or
Like,
not, this kind of protein, that kind of whatever. This kind of,
right.
and now everyone apparently is a biochemist on online and can say, well, this electron transfers when you do this, and I'm like, all right, great, But breaking all that
Right.
down, what's very reassuring is that number one, we're all going to die eventually. Right? So,
That's
so
so comforting to think
we
about.
we have to remember
Thanks,
that.
Doc.
Yeah, we have to remember that to say again, what's my goal? Nobody's going to live forever. That guy online,
Yeah.
we're all gonna perish someday. And so, what I'm trying to do is do the best that I can, but without overextending financially or emotionally and draining myself trying to get to this health so that I can be the best version of myself for as long as possible. And I want that to kind of take a load off my shoulders, as well as maybe somebody else that feels overwhelmed by these things, to say there are basic things that are true and
Okay.
have been shown in the studies over and over and over and over to
Okay.
matter way more than the biohacks that we all want to try. So, the
Okay.
non biohack way to be healthy, especially with nutrition, number one, stop eating crap. And we know what crap is. You don't have to be in a nutrition class to understand crap. So that is obvious,
Hmm.
the fast food, the high fructose corn syrup laden packaged garbage, right? So we all know what that is. Eat less of that, right? So try to make that
Okay.
nowhere in your baseline. It's okay, everyone's going out or whatever every now and then. That's fine. But in your baseline, in your home, we don't buy crap as a baseline. That's going to be goal number one.
Yeah.
That is the most important change by far. That will make you healthier longer and avoid disease. But as
Yeah.
part of that, now I want to eat good. So stop eating crap. Now I want to eat good stuff. And that's the closer it is in nature, the better. So whole foods, meaning whole fruits, whole vegetables, right? These are things that I either peel and eat or cook and eat. Meat is okay, in my opinion. And so I think all kinds of meat are
Hmm.
probably okay, in my opinion. There's going to be a variation based on who you are, your family history, your genetics, your lab work, things like that. But in general, when you eat
Hmm.
meat, those things that make the meat more expensive are actually kind of important. So the words on the packaging, like
Hmm.
grass fed or pasture raised or antibiotic free, hormone free, are they overplayed? Yes. Can farmers somewhat get around them? Yes. But are they still better? Yes. So, and I'll give you a quick example of
Mm.
why that maybe will stick in your head. And so, for example, when it's hormone or antibiotic free, when mammals take antibiotics, they break down after getting ingested and they go to your body and they aren't, it's not like amoxicillin is running around every cell of your body at some point. Eventually, that amoxicillin is broken down into metabolites or other pieces. And those pieces usually get stored in the fat, and that can be long term. And so if you have a cow that's been loaded with all of these antibiotics for to try and keep them from being sick because they're in horrible conditions and their stress hormones are through the roof their whole life, that all gets stored in the fat
Hmm.
of that animal. And then we eat that fat. And then we're getting all these antibiotic metabolites, as well as these hormones that we should not be getting at these levels, into our system. And then our hormones get jacked up. And then we get all the negative side effects of these metabolites, possibly causing inflammation. And then all of that fat and high
Mm.
cholesterol becomes even more toxic to us. And we're at higher risk for cardiovascular disease and other kinds of chronic illness because we're eating low quality, tampered with food. So those things do make a
Interesting.
difference.
Yeah.
If you want a little just
Yeah.
key, like a little detail. But eating the whole foods, fruits and vegetables daily, lean meats generally are better than red meats, only because really calorie content, and there's debate on the fat content. But eating meat is
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I'm going to put this uh, as far as what your goals should be into numbers. And you should probably be going for a certain amount of protein to get to a baseline level so that you have enough.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to keep that under a certain number of calories. So I want to get to this level of
Mm-hmm.
protein, below this level of calories. And if you can remember those two things, is that complete? Absolutely not. But is it super helpful for just everyday living to be healthy? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that number for everyone's going to be slightly different, and it's going to be helpful to talk to somebody. And maybe, I mean, you could probably use Chat GPT and get pretty close to these things. Just type in your
Totally.
numbers, answer
Yeah.
its questions. It's probably going to be fairly close for you.
And your
The
goals too, right? Wouldn't it be different if you were like trying to build muscle?
partial,
Or
yeah, it's
should
going to, but
everybody be
those difference are going to be, they're going to be
not
smaller
extreme?
than you would expect. But yes, so if you're trying to
Okay.
build a bunch of muscle and I got a competition to do and all that, it's going to be through the roof. But if it's like, hey, I want to, everyone says the same thing. What is your goal? Well, I want to burn fat.
I want to
I
be
want to
lean.
gain some
Yeah.
muscle. I want to be lean. I want to be, of course. I mean, who's not going to say that? What else is your goal with your body composition, right? It's hard to imagine anything
Yeah.
different. I want to be super weak and scrawny, right? No, that's not. No one's saying that. So if you want to build some muscle, and you want to burn fat, then there is a level. And I think online, it's typically they always go to the higher end. So it's super hard and disconcerting when it's like you're supposed to eat a gram of protein per day of your body weight in pounds. So for me, if I'm at 175 pounds, that's 175 grams of protein a day. Unbelievably hard to do that. And does that help? Absolutely, certainly. But is that sustainable for me? Absolutely not. Not for the long term of my life. I can decrease that to probably about 120 grams a day and still gain muscle, still burn fat for the long term and do great. And that there's numbers that are associated with that, how you calculate that. But honestly, if you look it up online, it's so easy to find. But just for the nerds out there who are going to
Yeah.
write it
Okay.
down, if you were to take your body weight in
Right.
kilograms, and so you have to convert it to kilograms, not pounds, and you do right around 1.6 grams per kilogram a day, just about everybody is going to land in that. Like, yep, that's a good range for you. There's some variation, but 1.6 is
Calorie
basically,
wise?
this is protein wise, 1.6 grams of protein
Protein
per
wise.
kilogram
Oh.
per kilogram. So
Okay.
that's
Of your
kind of
body
hard,
weight.
but calorie wise,
Interesting. Okay.
so you want to eat enough protein because you will be more likely to build muscle, especially if you're doing that strength training. You will burn fat faster, and you'll have all the things that come along with whole foods and proteins. You're going to get the nutrients that you need in general. Is it more complicated? Absolutely. This is trying to make it easy. And then you want to eat enough without overeating and getting fat, right? So that's the rub.
Hmm.
I It's pretty wild how I am the same, how I can get on a food kick and say, I'm going to eat healthy and I still gain fat. And that's because I can overeat
Mm,
healthy food,
healthy things. Yeah.
right? You can overeat healthy food. It's just absolutely possible. I always hear people go, well, if you eat a big
It's just
steak
calories.
and you're getting all that protein, you're not going to be hungry. I'm like, I must be crazy because I can definitely eat that steak and I can overeat and then I still want the potatoes and I still want extras and I can overeat healthy foods and still get fat because my calorie intake is too high. So the two numbers that I usually start with anybody is saying I want to eat healthy. I'm like, okay, get rid of the crap, eat whole foods, some of that stuff we talked about, eat, and then try to get to this basic level of protein and try to stay under this basic number of calories. And for the average person, you're anywhere between 1,600 calories for some smaller females up to 2,300 calories for males. I mean, somewhere in that range. You want to do some calculations based on your goals, whether you're trying
Yeah.
to lose weight or maintain or gain. You can change it, but and if you can do those two things, then you're probably going to be in a pretty healthy range with what you're eating. And so it's a
Totally.
lot. That's a lot of information.
I would
I know that's overwhelming because I
It's
overwhelm people
good.
with that as
We're
a career.
going. Well, I think the only thing that I'm aware of is maybe especially women or anyone that feels really sensitive to the whole like calorie diet, fat, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you because I know you have that's been a part of your story, but I know that that can get really confusing. And I think for me in my 20s, 100% had an eating disorder of obsession with a lot of things, image, working out, like cardio, only cardio, and like trying to eat as little as possible. And then I would
Mm,
like binge, and I didn't know why. It was like, that's like a whole part of a lot of people's story. And I had to go through a time when I was like, it was called, what is it called? Intuitive eating.
mm,
Understanding, like letting myself, like kind of repairing my relationship with food. Like there's no bad food. And then there was a few years of that. And then I got to the point where I felt like there was a lot of repair, a lot of health, a lot of resolve in my life. And I was like, well, I actually wanted to reapproach the conversation about body composition and my body. I didn't have the same triggers or fears or disorder around it.
mm,
And so I think intuitively, it's interesting for me to think about little kids and how we teach them to eat, and how
mm,
like we mess with that all the time, and how intuitively like we might gravitate towards whole foods if we weren't in a culture of like such fast and unhealthy food combined with such a confusing moving target standards
mm,
for beauty, and how we take care of ourselves affecting that. And so my instinct for survival, which did use food to cope, got so tangled up with my intuition
mm.
that like I it was really important for me, and I think for a lot of people, to go on a journey of repairing that, whatever that looks like. What if anybody feels like, oh, I hate this conversation, I don't want to count calories, I don't want to count all this stuff,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this, which is really, a big, another kind of subset of culture.
Mhm.
I totally understand that. And if that's where you're at, that's totally fine. I think that what you're talking about is like actually has nothing to do with how you look or anything. Like you're talking about from medical and scientific perspective of what is optimal for the
Yeah.
human body. And that was where I think most people, once they begin to heal their emotional state, realize that they are actually really interested in.
It's very interesting. Yeah. No, I think I probably don't appreciate that as much as I probably should be aware of what people are feeling and how that connects to
Mm,
old patterns of
that's not your,
relating to
yeah.
food. But if I think about my own life, my own emotional connection to food, it's very real too for me. So, what
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
the
remember asking you that. I was like, have you met anybody with like a healthy relationship with food? And you said like everybody's relationship with food is dynamic and like has
Mhm.
highs and lows,
The short
and
answer to that
like
is
there's
no.
always like a relationship.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met a single human being that has like just, hey, that is a great relationship with food, and you're consistent with that. Because, and I don't
Right.
know
You don't think
everybody's
about it, you
hearts,
naturally eat
right?
the best things.
All my friends are like, what? But no, it's just.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not thinking about everybody's relationship with food, but if I thought about it, I'm like, I don't.
I
I
get
don't
it.
know because
Well, you talk to a
we
lot of people. Yeah.
because we all, even if somebody's like, wow, you're in great shape, you're just so disciplined. I mean, that also has such a high risk of over fixating on it. And it's like,
Upset.
how much of an
Yeah.
idol is that in your life that's sucking that emotional energy to stay that way? And are you robbing that emotional energy from other important things in your life just to stay that way? And
Yeah.
probably, at least in
Totally.
seasons. And so it's really hard and it is dynamic. And for the counting calories and counting protein, I'll let you know where I'm at right now. I don't count either. Because I did, and I went through that process at least for a short time.
You
I
have an
have a
idea of
I
what it
have
feels
a
like.
radar, right? It's
Yes.
like I know it's like yeah,
Yes.
I overdid it today, and I know what I feel like when I overdo it,
Exactly.
or I didn't quite get enough of my protein. Like I can, and so it's just living life now. I'm like now I'm free to live life. I
Yes.
kind of have my radar, but I will say this: we all are like a piano that can go out of tune, and that radar gets off.
Yeah.
And so it's like I am gaining weight, and
Yeah.
I'm eating so good, and it's like I know my hormones are off, and it's like maybe let's check them.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's true. Most of the time,
Yeah.
not. It's that our piano's out of tune, and you're actually
Right.
eating, or I'm actually eating way more than I am recording in my natural rate. So I have to start tracking
Totally.
in for another few days to say, oh, I am
Yep.
going 300 or 400 calories over what I probably need as a baseline and for how active I am. And over time, that
Yeah.
adds another pound,
Yeah.
another pound, another pound. So yeah,
Right.
it's not counting for life. It's
Yeah.
just being aware of this, doing it intermittently through our life, pay attention to it,
Calibrating.
put a
Yeah.
little bit of that emotional energy into, all right, I'm going to download an app. I'll track it for a week so I kind of understand. And
Yep.
that the more educated we are about it, the easier it is to do that. And we can just intermittently do it. And we have this now. It's just a baseline part of our life. And it's unfortunately like, well, humans shouldn't have to do that. It's like we should just be able to live and eat. And it's like, well, probably easier when everything was natural and we were on the land. but that's not our culture.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
not reality. But
And we weren't highly stimulated.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
and you know what?
100%.
The cavemen didn't have TikTok in their face 10 hours a day telling them what they should and shouldn't do. So,
Yes, totally. Yes. Okay. Anything else under the food?
yeah.
Stop
So
eating crap. Eat
stop
good
eating crap.
food.
Yeah. So
Protein, calories.
absolutely. And I think that pretty much nails it. And then that allows you some freedom, right? It's like, oh, friends are getting together. We're going to In-N-Out, or we have a party.
Yeah.
They got pizza. It's like, all right, enjoy. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be
Yeah.
the bore of the party, unless you're partying like 2 or 3 times a
Yes.
week. It's like, all right, what? But you can enjoy things every now and then, right? And you should still be healthy.
Totally.
So,
Yes. Like Christmas
okay.
crack.
So the 6 pillars, the 6 things of health. I'll name them fast, and then we can just skip to ones that are more interest to you potentially. But exercise is number one, most important. Two is a second, like 1A, 1B. Three is going to be sleep. Number
Mhm.
four is going to be don't smoke. Number five is alcohol, and number six is be at a healthy weight. So those are the six. So
Right. Okay.
number three is sleep. And man, this is
Okay.
what screws us up in this society of ours.
Totally.
So sleep, and there is a magic number. You know what it is? What's that? What would be your guess as a
Wait, I'm going
human
to
being?
guess. We should get 8 hours a night.
That's not bad. If you got 8 hours, you'd be great. It's so the minimum for the average person, adult, 7, right? So you should probably be getting 7.
Okay.
There is something to be said for elderly. Maybe you need a little less. Fine. But for adults in their mid 20s to early 60s, late 50s, we're looking at 7 hours a night. And that has been validated again over and over and over. And the differences on that are pretty astounding as well. So if there's a study that was done that was randomized controlled trial, and sorry, not a randomized controlled trial, but a peer-reviewed trial. And what they did is they took people who slept 7 hours to 8 hours a night, and they compared them to 5 hours or less. So not that much of a difference, because there's a lot of people out there sleeping less than 5 hours. But the people who slept 7 hours a night had, or 5 hours less, had 2 chronic diseases more than the people who slept 7 hours. So if you sleep 7 hours, you're
Wow.
basically subtracting 2 chronic diseases in your life on average compared to people who don't. And that's
Wow.
a pretty
Wild.
big deal. And beyond that, obviously, how do you feel when you don't sleep well? Feel terrible. How does your brain work? Not well. Because
Right.
part of the
Right.
function of sleep and sleeping well is that is the time that your brain sends out these cells that are like garbage trucks. And in the night, as long as you're getting these nice cycles of sleep, these cells are cleaning up all the waste products of your brain. And by the time you wake up, the garbage trucks are back home, everything's clean, the streets are squeaky, and neurons can fire like they're supposed to fire. And if we're not sleeping, those things start
Yeah.
to build up in this junk in our brain. And imagine what that does for creativity. Imagine what that does for emotions.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does for brain health long term, risks for dementia and other diseases like Parkinson's and all. So sleep is an absolute non-negotiable. So if somebody's got washboard abs and they feel like, you know, they're feeling terrible in my office, that is absolutely a question. How's your sleep? How are you sleeping? What time do you go to bed? And more often than not, people have pretty, we slide in our sleep habits, pretty terrible sleep. And that's something that is
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
a universal uh, at some degree. And there's seasons of life where it's unavoidable. Young kids often is going
Yeah.
to be the worst. There's times you have to sacrifice sleep to get something done. But man, the baseline has to be there, or else your chance of health and feeling good, not high.
There's also seasons of stress that can cause insomnia, that can cause sleep disruptions. And I think that that can cause a lot of anxiety that actually perpetuates that vicious cycle as well. So that's also a factor for some people.
Yeah,
And healable.
one of the most difficult things I have in treating patients is sleep, to be honest. It's a it's an uphill battle
Interesting,
for most. Yeah.
really.
It's a hard one. When I see they're coming to me with I have insomnia or I don't sleep well, it's really hard. Because and I think
Oh,
part
that
of
is
the
really
issue
hard.
is we all reach for medication before we ever talk to anybody. And so, because it's over the counter, like you would get
Yeah.
Tylenol PM or something with Benadryl in it, essentially. And that changes the chemistry of our brain. And then, or even melatonin, by the way, changes the chemistry of our brain. And so, trying to sleep after taking those is even harder. Right? I mean, they might get
Yeah.
you to sleep for a short time, but eventually they stop working. And man, it's so much harder after you've taken stuff to get you back on track. It's possible, but man, it's work. It's not easy for anyone. And most of us are geared towards, I need to
Yeah.
sleep now, so give me the med. And it's like, all right, I understand that.
Yeah.
But for ideal
Yes.
to have those garbage trucks go in the middle of the night and clean up our brains, it's better to be natural
Yeah.
sleep, that you're actually going through the cycles appropriately and trying to get to that 7 hour number.
Yes. Just in case anybody's feeling sleep guilt right now, I had terrible sleep for a few years in postpartum. That was the worst part of my life for sure, and made everything horrible. And I had a lot of anxiety about not sleeping because doctors kept telling me, well, if you get sleep, like this will be resolved. And it is resolved, and I sleep great. And I just need people to anything that I'm thinking from the other perspective of myself 10 years ago, listening of like, oh my God, I gotta get sleep or I'm not gonna be okay. Seasons, even, long seasons of like sleep disruptions can absolutely be healed. Just want to
Absolutely.
put that up there for anyone
That is
listening.
absolutely true. What made the
Yes.
difference for
And you've
you?
seen it.
Yeah, what made the difference for you?
You know what is so funny? I don't know if you remember this, but when I was like the height of sleep anxiety, you actually said to me, Courtney, just try and lay down and close your eyes. You don't even worry if you can't go to sleep. Don't worry. Just rest your body and try and go to sleep. And I think about that a lot, about how letting myself off the hook to like have deep sleep, because I know that I can actually lay my own body down, and like that helps me. It's like one of the things I think about. Healing my nervous system, because it was all nervous system related. It was all like I was in fight or flight. And I think the thing about understanding sleep in fight or flight is that ironically we toss and turn. We want to pretend, we want to like just get back to sleep. The biggest tip for me was my practitioner told me, when you notice that you have a lot in your mind, or you feel really restless, get up and push, pull, squeeze. So push against the wall, do push-ups, squeeze something, do pacing, like not high stimulation, but use that energy in your body, because it's basically like your body thinks there's a lion and you're trying to say, no, there's no lion, go back to sleep. But your body's like, there's a lion. Like, I'm not going to let you go back to sleep. So you basically have to work with your body and say, I know you think there's a lion. You're sending me the energy that I would need to run away from a predator. And the predator in your mind, it could be your boss, your spouse. It could be, it doesn't, whatever. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So you're basically working with your body. I know you think there's something that's coming to get you. And that's why you're trying to help me run. And that's why sleep feels dangerous, because it's dangerous to sleep if a lion's chasing you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help you use that energy up so that we can go back to sleep. That's my trick. I still use it when I have nights of sleeplessness. It works for me every single time. Sometimes it takes a while to use up that energy, and I'll just like kind of walk around my house in the dark and like do some shaking or do some pushing, and then I'll go back to sleep. And it won't be the best night of sleep ever, but I always go back to sleep.
Interesting. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm you're the doctor. I don't know. You know better than me. That's just what I do.
No,
I'll
that's
tell
really
your
good.
patients.
Well, but
Okay,
but the
so
truth is the reason I ask is because there are tricks like that aren't taught to doctors in medical school, right? It's like, well, what actually works? Because
right.
what we're taught about sleep is the physiology and all of those things, but what do you do about it, right? And there's only
Yeah.
so much, unless you go to a
Yes.
sleep specialist, and that's pretty hard to get to. A lot of these things are, what works for other people. And so, to be honest, yes, there's evidence,
Yeah.
and we try to get, but the evidence isn't always perfect, and you'd want to try different tricks. So that's what I'm interested in. So
Yes.
that's very helpful.
Totally. Yep. Yes. Okay, so anything else about sleep?
No, I don't think so. So
Can
the
you
next
hit
one,
cigarettes and alcohol?
yeah, do them.
I don't
They're
even know
great.
I don't know
They're
anybody that
awesome.
smokes cigarettes.
They're awesome. So yeah, I mean,
Cigarettes?
it's pretty much what do we got to say? Don't smoke cigarettes.
Just don't.
Don't smoke cigarettes. I hesitate to say it. I probably shouldn't. But if you stop before the age of 40, you still have a really good chance of having a
You
pretty
may be
clean
okay.
health, less short of chronic disease in adulthood, if everything else is right. If everything else
Interesting.
is right and great, but that's hard to do. So, but
Right. And
it's not a guarantee,
you
right?
don't want to say it because it's just better to not do it at all.
But truth is better than trying to manipulate people. So, if you're smoking, stop,
Okay.
and if you haven't
Fair.
stopped by 40, definitely stop. I mean, there's
Okay, alcohol.
alcohol. So, funny
Yeah.
one. Okay, the American Heart Association, 2 glasses of wine for a guy who's an adult, 1 glass of wine for a female. Man, that's going to help your heart and it's going to be great. No, it's not true. That's not true at all. Maybe in certain populations, maybe according to a couple, but no. Any amount of alcohol
Really?
is taking a withdrawal from somewhere in your body. Any, this even a small amount. Doesn't mean that withdrawal is not worth it. Didn't say that, but you just have to know any amount. So even for females, there's a study that was done, and they checked for females who drank something most days of the week, but it was less than 1 glass, like what less than one drink of alcohol, and they had a higher incidence of breast cancer. So just with less than one drink most days a week. So if you take alcohol of any amount, it is a dose dependent problem. So the more, the worse. However, there is no universal healthy amount of alcohol to take. Now, why do we drink? I don't drink, but why do most people drink? And it's because it feels good, right? And it's social,
Mm-hmm.
it's relaxing,
Right.
right? So there are other benefits that may be, and you are the master of your own destiny. You're the master of your own health and body. So it's like, well, I do things all the time, even though I don't drink, that I know are not great for me, but I have determined are worth it to me because I get other benefits other than just caring about what it's going to do to the cells of my body. And so, as long as you understand that and you're not massaging your frontal lobe, meaning telling that part of yourself that is capable of critical thinking, no, it's okay, it's fine for me, and it's not, right? So,
Yeah.
as long as you're not telling yourself like, no, it's actually good for me, it's not. But it still might be good for you as a whole person to a small amount, and you're just willing to take the physical hit. Does that make sense? Because as long as you know it's a
Yeah.
physical hit, that's the key. It's like, all right,
Right.
it's probably not great for me for a few reasons. More the worse, which we all know, but even a little bit is not good physically.
Well, how are we going to feel warm and funny?
Oh, man, get a blanket, watch a funny movie. I don't know, have someone tickle you. I don't
Get
know.
a hug. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I know alcohol's never been an issue for me. I always feel like I don't think I've ever finished a drink. But I feel like it's like a
but it's a
whatever
big deal.
thing. But I
It's a
know for
big
some people
deal,
that's a really big issue. Yeah, it's a
big
big
issue in
deal.
people's life, right? I mean, and so
Yeah,
it's something that I try really hard never to come at somebody with judgmental eyes because, and I
sure.
truly don't feel that way about somebody, even if I've got people drink 25 beers a day, and I tell them like, hey, you gonna die from that at some point. But for the average
Do you
person,
have like what's like your not shocked face? Like, okay, like let's try it. Like, okay, hey Dr. Reed, it's so good to be here. Yeah. So basically I drink 25 beers a day, 20 sometimes 50 on Saturdays and Sundays.
I don't have a not shocked face. You know what I'll say to that? I said it this week actually to somebody. I said, my man. Wow. All right, let's go. And honestly, that's how I respond. I can't respond another way. And it at least like breaks the ice. And
Oh
I
my God, I
found
love
that
you.
it helps. But I give them a high five. I'm like, wow, we're going for it. And then I say, but
Meanwhile,
that's
you
gonna
have
kill you.
no idea what that what that experience would be
But
like. You're like,
but people
damn.
are on that to that degree. They know they're
Oh
down an
my gosh,
addiction
that's
pathway, and it's
hilarious.
a totally different conversation than just stop drinking. That's a very deep conversation, many
Yeah,
conversations.
right. Very deep. Totally. The last thing you said was, did you say body weight? That felt rude to me, but I was gonna
Yeah,
give you a
body weight.
chance to.
So a healthy weight. So but healthy
Let's talk
body
about
weight.
it. Let's do it.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting that that's not like sort of covered under the umbrella of
yeah.
exercise and nutrition. It's its own separate
No,
category.
no, you can eat healthy and exercise and still be overweight. And it just depends on how long you've been doing it, right? So, um, but the healthy weight as an
Yeah.
independent risk factor is undeniable. And honestly, without quoting studies, just think about how many things have come out in the last 2 years about how amazing Ozempic is, right? Or the drugs like Ozempic for weight loss, right? And it's like, oh, well,
Okay.
now we know
Mm-hmm.
that you can use it to treat heart failure. Now we know that it helps with liver disease. Now we know that it helps with mental health and addiction. And we have all these. And so, and I believe there are probably some mechanistic things in the body it does that might, but in reality, all those benefits are mostly coming from the fact that people are losing massive amounts of weight. And when you are obese, in the
Yeah.
obese category, which sounds like a dirty word, but it's a descriptive term of a BMI, which your body mass index of 30 or higher. Normal is roughly 19 to 25. Overweight is kind of 25 to 29, and then 30 and up is obese. And so the terms
Aren't we
get
supposed to
worse
pay
the higher it
attention to
goes.
body fat? Aren't we
So
supposed to pay attention to body fat percentage as opposed to BMI?
if you have access to that information, most people don't. So most people don't
Oh.
have access to their
Oh.
body fat percentage or their muscle mass, you know, percentage or weight.
Oh, oh
So
okay.
you have to use what you have. And most of these studies that are done on this are based on BMI, even though BMI, like you're alluding to, is imperfect, right? I mean, it's not the greatest thing to
Right.
use because it doesn't bring into account if you've been doing a lot of strength training and you're jacked and you're heavy because your muscle's heavier than your fat. Good for you. That's amazing. Then absolutely, yes, you need to know your body fat and your muscle mass. However, most of us, that's not the category that we're in. It's BMI is still very useful, and it's what's been used for decades in many of these studies when we're looking at the effects of obesity and overweight. So that's what we're going with. And if you can get that BMI in
Gotcha.
general to that 18 to 25, 19 to 25 range, then you're going to be much healthier than if you do not get to that point. And if you put these things together, there was a study that was done. I wrote it down because I was like, oh, wow, this is one that I never want to get the numbers wrong. There was a study that was published in JAMA, and it said, okay, for people who have these four things in their life, and they're at a healthy weight, number one, so their BMI is at those ranges, they're non-smoking, they exercise to that 150 minutes a week, and they're at moderate alcohol intake or less, which is basically the 1 or 2 glasses a day of wine or the equivalent. And those people, their average age before they got their first quote unquote chronic disease, like high blood pressure or something along those lines, was age 71, which is pretty phenomenal. So,
Wow. Yeah.
especially think about your dads, your grandpas, your moms.
Yeah.
They're usually getting their first chronic disease well before 71, right? But if you have just those four things, that was the average age in that category. And
Wow.
there was another study. This is a meta-analysis. So meta-analysis, when they get all the best studies and they try to do statistics on them to say what out of all of these studies are the things that stand out the most or the most significant. And there was one that looked at 142 studies, 2.6 million people, basically huge numbers. It's like, okay, well, what does this have to say? Because that's a big deal. What they were looking at is people who did all six things that I just listed, right? It's the you exercise 150 minutes, you're eating well, that all the things, not smoking, not drinking, you're sleeping 7 hours, and you're at a healthy weight. And they compared, okay, that group of people to basically everyone else, people who did five of those six, four of those six, three of those six, or none of those six. And when you take the best and the worst, right? Like people who are like, hey, I'm overweight and I smoke and I drink and I don't exercise and I don't sleep. Those people had 55% less all cause mortality. I mean, they again, if you took a 50-year-old and a 50-year-old and the people who did all the six things that we talked about in this podcast, they were dead 55% less of the time compared to the other group at every single age.
Wow.
And what that means on a compounded
Wow.
level. So if you start early, right? The whole point of this is if you start early in your 20s and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to try and get these things under check and just start some of these basic habits in life. And not only are you going to feel amazing, mostly, not perfect. That's not life. Like nobody feels perfect. Everyone gets tired after lunch every now and then. Like all those things, everyone gets headaches every now and then. But if say, hey, you do these things, and you're trying to stay with them, you every single year compared to your peers are going to be less likely to die to the other people your age by 55%, and you're 62% less likely to have any other kind of cardiovascular disease. Not to mention all of the other health, emotional, mental, physical life benefits of doing these things. And if you have all six
Wow.
of these by age 50, and this is another study, huge study, and they took by age 50, the people who did six to the people who did none, the average person, or the average woman, we'll do it by male and female, the average woman, if you did all six by age 50, your average life expectancy is 93 years old. That's insane
Wow.
because the average female life expectancy otherwise is about 79. And but if they did these six
Yeah.
things by age 50, their average life expectancy was 93. And men, it was 87. And that's up from 77
Wow.
for the average person. So
Right.
you so
Wow.
how do you like think these are a lot of numbers? It's so hard to listen to stuff like this sometimes. You kind of like zone out. But if you could break it down,
Right.
if you do the basic six stuff, right, the things that are so intuitive, but it's the okay, I gotta exercise, I know that. I gotta, try to eat pretty well. I don't want to smoke cigarettes. Great, got it. I don't want to drink too much. I gotta sleep and trying to stay at a basic healthy weight. You do those things, then you will probably add 10 to 14 years of quality health years on your life. Not to mention the life that you're going to live all the way through that is going to be so much more enjoyable
Right.
for the most part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Right.
big deal stuff. So those are the big ones, and the take home point for some people that need to hear this, and by some people I mean basically everybody, is what we are seeing and getting inundated with the new health movement in our country and this culture is it's great stuff, right? Like, oh man, if you do this, you do the, like I said, cold plunges and infrared and this supplement for that and this
Optimization.
supplement for that and a health optimization, right? It's the in these circles and what we're getting inundated with. I have found more often than not, that brings unnecessary anxiety for very minimal
Yeah.
gains for most people. Very minimal.
Yeah.
Those are things like,
Right.
okay, yeah, you could get some help. There's some small studies for most of this stuff that maybe it helps with these things. And for the right person, that might be the right thing to do in your life. I like some of this stuff, right? I think, but
Right.
man, the big stuff is still the big stuff. And it's kind of like saying,
Yeah. And it
uh,
hasn't changed.
and it hasn't changed, right? And we just get more information about it and trying to get some of these numbers to make it actionable. Man, it's the basic stuff that if you start young, you start early, you will be much more
Hmm.
likely to be at your best health. And when you're at your best health, you're much more likely to have and enjoy your best life. Right? That's got to be true
Yes.
over and over. It's not. I would say this caveat. I'm just this way. I always caveats. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
know. There's a
do.
lot of nuance in life.
It's
It's
what I
good.
do. But
Yeah.
somebody else might need to hear this. Like, well, I already have a chronic disease. It's like I already have been diagnosed with something. I already have whatever auto and
Mm,
my life is already very difficult, and so you don't
right.
understand. Like that's real too. And I always think of
Totally.
I always go to my anchor and these kinds of things, and I think of Paul from the Bible, and he says, "I've learned the secret to be content in all things." And if you're trying to be creative, I think, there is something to be gained in every hardship. And when we can gain something out of that hardship, I think about some of the best songs in history, some of the best paintings were probably painted, written out of the hardest times in life, and that can bring
Hmm.
absolute beauty to the world still. And so we're talking about being healthy,
Absolutely.
enjoying life, all of these things. But at the same time, there's this other truth on that other barrel stave, this spiritual health and this mental health, that even if physical health isn't
Yeah.
there, we can still enjoy and create and make incredible beauty in the midst of horrible suffering. So that is the balance also that I
Absolutely.
have to remind myself of many times in life, because life is hard, right? And life is going to throw us
Yeah.
curveballs. And even if we do all six of those health pillar activities, man, life is still going to throw a curveball at some point, and we're going to have to bob and weave
Totally.
and hopefully still create and hopefully still find joy. And I think that's possible as well. Totally
Yeah.
different topic, totally different podcast, not
What a
podcast
TED talk
episode,
this was. Right. Yes,
different
100%.
episode.
I just want to add one little thing because I want to be mindful of your time is as far as the healthy weight thing, I feel like I myself and a lot of women are delicately unfolding our relationship and assumptions around body positivity. That was like a really healthy season for me as like a curvier person to be like, okay, like fully accepting what we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We are not healing, we're not approaching our health and the pillars that you talked about because we are not already loved. We are
Yeah.
from a place of love looking at, what is optimal. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes well, I guess that like the body weight thing sticks out to me, especially because it is such a sensitive area, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for women. And if we are able to know how deeply loved we are no matter what, it gets easier to look at like what does the science actually say? What do the experts in the field actually say about what is optimal? I'm interested in what's optimal because I really, really love my family and my as wanting to spend as much time with them as I can. I love my goals. I love my dreams. There's so many things that I feel like I'm expanding and growing in capacity to be able to do. So I think like separating how you feel emotionally about each of these pillars from the actual science
Mhm.
is something I wanted to do today, and what you offered so beautifully. And I'm so thankful.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point because losing weight and having a healthy relationship with our body as is a lot like having a healthy relationship with food, right? It's there is this necessity
Yes.
in life, and there's no way around it, that our ability to rest emotionally with our identity and be able to rest in this fact that I am valuable and I am loved has to be
Yep.
there. And in my opinion, it has to probably be anchored into something that is not circumstantial, because the circumstances
Yeah,
change.
absolutely.
My body weight
Yes.
changes, my relationship statuses change, my feelings change.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
if my identity, to the degree that it is anchored in what I look like or how people respond to me or whatever else, to that same degree, I will be tortured with anxiety when it comes
Yes.
to anything that
Yeah.
is uncomfortable for me to address, like my body weight, like how people respond, like whatever, because my worth will be just whatever degree attached to that thing. So,
Yeah.
so for me, I don't know how the average person gets through this life without having an anchoring to God, to Jesus, because
Mm-hmm.
to me,
Same.
reciting that truth over and over regularly throughout life and on a daily basis about God, you love me. I am
Knowing,
perfect
yep,
in your eyes
I am
because
loved.
of you and your righteousness, and I don't have to be perfect, quote unquote, here. And you're still going to love me because of what you've done for me. And you call me your beloved. You call me wonderfully made. You know the number of hairs on my head, and you have not given me a spirit of fear. You've not given me a spirit of timidity. You've given me a spirit of power and love and a sound mind because of who you've created to me and who you've made me alive in the spirit as. And so, because of that, now
Mm-hmm.
I can maybe approach some of these physical things, hopefully from a healthier place, not of desiring to be at a good weight so that I feel better about myself and my identity and my value, or the so that other people are going to be like, oh man, finally, like you are fill in the blank, or they look at me with hopefully, and that's a human experience. We all deal with that, but hopefully on that deep level, you're right that it's external to that. And I don't know how people who don't have that are going to obtain that. I'm sure there's tricks and tips and things that people have that are outside my experience, but that is what I use. That's what I need. And even with that, it's still hard, because who doesn't want to
Mm-hmm.
have somebody say, man, that dude's hot. That girl, she looks good, right? Like that's a
Right.
great feeling for anyone. And on the reverse side of that, it's horrible when you feel the opposite. It's like, oh, they got some issues. They probably they don't look. That's a terrible thing to have to deal with emotionally. And so having that anchor
Yeah.
outside of that. So
Mm.
that's it again, the barrel of health,
Yeah.
right? That's in that spiritual, mental, emotional, social, all of those things in order to get to that physical. But what you said about what is truly healthy is still the same, regardless of how I feel about it,
Yeah.
regardless of what I want to be comfortable with my well being in. It's still true that my body operates better and
Right.
is healthier at a certain weight. And that is universal and will
Mm,
never
yeah.
change. And I have to be okay with that as a human, as a
Right.
spirit. And that's
Totally.
and that's work,
Yeah.
man. That's work. Good luck to
Totally.
everybody.
Yeah, and I think yeah, what you're saying is like the foundation of health really rests, or all of these pillars really rest on like a foundation of knowing your identity as a well-loved child of God. Like that is, it gets way easier to approach it when you know your identity is you are loved.
Totally. It's almost as if you could get that, you could heal and like create things.
Yes.
And if there was just
Oh,
someone focusing
what a
on something
great,
like that,
you know what? I'm going to
might
think
work out.
about that
Mm-hmm.
actually. You just gave me an idea. Reid,
I
where
want
can
credit
people find you? Credit and percentage.
at In and Out. My kids.
It's not a lie. Where can
Disneyland.
people find you online?
So I have an Instagram that's updated quarterly. Yeah, it's at the Dr. Reid.
Perfect. Just
Yeah.
exactly how
So
social media, yeah,
yeah, I
succeeds.
don't have much of a social media
Uh,
presence. I'm in La Quinta, California, doing my job in my life and loving my family. That's what I'm doing. So
Well, if people, just in case someday you do decide to grace us with daily updates
Yeah,
on
the
the
Dr.
well-being of
Reid.
the
There's some
human,
underscores in there too, but the Dr. Reid. THE
at
underscore.
the Dr. Reid,
Hmm.
Reid Lancaster, you're just so loved. We love you.
Yeah, thanks for having me
So
on.
much
This
for
was
being
wonderful.
here.
Super fun.
Absolutely. Have a great
All right.
day. Thanks
You
everybody
too.
for listening. Bye.
Bye.